It was one of the messiest dramas that took place in television history. The scandal would turn a once beloved public figure into a villain for the ages. Let's take a look back at how the former late-night host Jay Leno ruined his legacy forever. Before late-night talk shows were used to push political agendas, they originally were just humor-driven programs aired to entertain millions before settling in for bed. The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson was one of the pioneers of the growing genre. The interview-style talk show provided thousands of hours of entertainment to millions for nearly 3 decades. Over the years, The Tonight Show would become quite revered in the world of show business. When Johnny decided it was time to retire, most assumed his successor would be his peer on the network. Letterman followed Carson's show for a number of years, and Dave received a good amount of viewership as well. However, in a rather shocking twist, the hosting job went to the stand-up comedian Jay Leno. While it wasn't the obvious choice, Leno did occasionally fill in on The Tonight Show as a guest host, so he indeed had a history with the network. Dave, who felt slighted, decided to leave the company and take his talents to CBS. For the first few seasons, Leno struggled in the viewership department, with Letterman consistently outperforming him. It would be the same story for Conan O'Brien, who had been tasked to replace the very popular Letterman. But after a few years on air, both new hosts began to thrive and boost ratings for NBC. The older demographic enjoyed Leno's well-polished sense of humor, and the younger crowd gravitated towards Conan's supreme wit and quirkiness. But the new kings of late night soon would clash. After the start of the new millennium, the contracts for Leno and O'Brien were close to expiring. Other notable networks were very interested in luring Conan away from NBC. Fox offered him much more money and a much more appealing timeslot that would garner a larger audience. However, Conan, like many other comedians, always dreamed of hosting The Tonight Show at some point in their careers. But the question still remained, how long was Leno planning to stick around? To keep O'Brien from jumping ship and joining the competition, NBC decided to strike a unique deal with him. In the new proposal, Conan would inherit The Tonight Show once Leno's contract ended. When the deal was explained to Jay, he reluctantly agreed to step aside behind the scenes. Not long after, Leno would make the announcement about the transition to his audience.
About 6 months ago, I sat down here with the folks at NBC, and they said, we want to re-up. And I said, okay, what do you want to do? Because I don't have a manager and agent. I like the people I work with. They're nice folks. And they said, and this is a high-paying job. Oh, it's a great paying job. So they said, listen, we would like to do 5 more years. I said, great. I'd love to do 5 more years. And that was 6 months ago. And then time went by. There's all talk about Conan O'Brien. Will he go to ABC? Will he go to one of these other networks? And they came to me and they said, we don't want to lose Conan O'Brien. And I said, oh, okay, what does that mean? And they said, we think Conan would be a good replacement, as I do. Conan is a gentleman, funny, the hottest late-night guy out there, excellent. And I said, you know something? I don't want to see Conan go anywhere else. I'm 59. I'll be 59 years old when this leaves. 5 years from now. That's 1,200 shows. They're not going anywhere tomorrow. And I said, you know, there's really only one person who could have done this into his 60s, and that was Johnny Carson. I think it's fair to say I'm no Johnny Carson. So I called up my buddy, I called up my buddy Jerry Seinfeld. I said, Jerry, what do you think, you know? And Jerry quit his show when it was the most popular. And I'm proud to say this show has been #1. We will keep it #1. And then in 2009, I'll say, Conan, take it over, it's yours. Because, you know, you can do these things until they carry out on a stretcher, or you can get out when you're still doing good and think, I'm not quitting show business. But I realize I'm not spending enough time with my cars. But anyway, this is not tomorrow. It's 5 years from today, and I want to say I don't think there's a better choice. Because, you know, when I took this show over, boy, there was a lot of animosity between me and Dave and who's going to get it. And quite frankly, a lot of what I thought, well, good friendships were permanently damaged. And I don't want to see anybody ever have to go through that again. Because this show is like a dynasty. You hold it, and then you hand it off to the next person. And I don't want to see all the fighting and all, and who's better, and nasty things back and forth in the press. So right now, here it is. Conan, it's yours. See you in 5 years, buddy. Okay. Clear enough? Enough said? All right. Let's get on with the show. All right.
Jay choosing to gracefully give the show over to Conan generated a very positive reaction amongst viewers, and it made him seem rather selfless. But behind the scenes, Leno wasn't a happy camper and still wanted to host The Tonight Show for the foreseeable future. In preceding episodes, Jay would let his frustrations out, making subtle digs at the company during his long monologues. NBC now feared Leno may move on to another network, creating big competition. The higher-ups decided to offer Leno a new show, which would air right before Conan's. Leno decided to take the deal and stay with NBC.
Jay Leno, America's favorite TV personality, is going to host a brand new comedy show weeknights at 10, 9 Central, with comedy like this.
Identify this photo.
It's the sinking of the Titanic.
So this fall, you'll get more comedy and we'll make you happy. How funny is that? On NBC.
In the summer of 2009, the new generation of late night would finally begin. The Tonight Show with Conan O'Brien would kick off on a very high note for the network. The much-anticipated first episode garnered over 9 million live viewers.
You know, ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge night for me. I remember watching Johnny Carson when I was a kid and thinking, that's what I want to be when I grow up. And I'm sure right now, somewhere in America, there's a little kid watching me thinking, what is wrong with that man's hair? Is that even a man? Why is she crying?
While the premiere did generate a great deal of attention, over the course of the next couple weeks and months, The Tonight Show's ratings would start to decline. Soon the king of late night became Dave Letterman. The Late Show was consistently pulling in more viewers than O'Brien was able to. It was the first time in nearly 14 years that Dave was able to surpass The Tonight Show in viewership. The quirkiness that the younger audience enjoyed about Conan seemed to not quite resonate with the older generation that normally would tune into The Tonight Show. But the boomers wouldn't have to go too long without their favorite appearing on screen again. The Jay Leno Show would debut 3 months after Conan's version of The Tonight Show aired. It drew in a big audience initially, but slowly, for an unforeseen reason, the numbers would decrease steadily. The slight rearrangements disrupted the audience experience more than NBC anticipated. Local NBC news outlets lost viewers because of the shifts in time. And primetime dramas that were competing in the same time slot as Leno began to prevail. As a result of NBC's changes, other networks like ABC and CBS were also benefiting greatly from the misstep. Board members for the network began scrambling for ways to recover from the issue they created. The higher-ups came up with a solution they perceived would correct everything. The plan would be to move Leno back to his old 11:30 airing and push Conan's Tonight Show to after midnight. The reconstruction would inevitably leave one late-night host without a job. Jay was on board with the change, but O'Brien, on the other hand, felt it was a slap in the face. The ultimatum left Conan with 2 options: accept the change or walk away from the company he'd been a part of for more than 15 years. Conan would decide to leave NBC, and he was paid out the rest of his contract. When the story broke of Leno returning to host The Tonight Show, the announcement was met with a negative reaction from millions and also from others in the entertainment industry.
What's the best prank you ever pulled?
I think the best prank I ever pulled was I told a guy that 5 years from now I'm going to give you my show. And then when the 5 years came, I gave it to him, and then I took it back almost instantly.
Wow.
It was hilarious.
Very good prank. Very good prank.
I think he works at Fox or something now.
Yeah, I got you. All right, number 6.
The gracious speech he made years prior came back to bite him in the end. Conan, on the other hand, being the perceived victim of it all, gained more fan support than he ever did prior. Millions elected to follow him over to a new network as he embarked on the next chapter in his late-night career. Jay Leno and The Tonight Show performed moderately well, but he was unable to pull in the big numbers he once did. 3 years after his return, he would officially retire, leaving the show in the hands of Jimmy Fallon, which many believe is a big downgrade from both former hosts. What are your thoughts on this story? Who was your favorite host? Leave a comment below and let me know.